biggest challenge facing farmers, given all the issues that need to be tackled, is embracing change. Change is hard and it costs money. And it's inevitable that many of the things they're going to be required to do will probably not cover the costs of actually doing them. And this is the same in practically every other industry. Moving with the times costs money and you just have to do it. And we can learn from these other industries. And the sorts of things that characterise them that maybe aren't the same in farming is the need for continual professional development, always training. And we are very lucky as an industry because so much is available, but doing things to broaden your mind, to get away from the day job and to learn from it. Secondly is increasing diversity in business, embracing youth and gender and all sorts of other ways of thinking. That's important as well. And I think also taking the time to think and explore options. Because farmers need to plan for zero carbon, zero subsidies relating to production, and using the knowledge that they have and from previous generations, but with the technology of today. Thanks.
So what do I think is the biggest challenge that's going to face agriculture in the next 10 years? In a word, expertise. There is so much that is changing at the moment, and I think we're all chasing to keep up with those changes. I've got 3 points to make. The first, removal of subsidies. How are we going to make sure that our businesses are resilient enough to cope with the changes that are coming in the very near future? Second, I think a huge point globally for the whole of humankind, climate change, and more specifically carbon. Agriculture has got a huge part to play in this. How do we think we're going to be rewarded for what we can contribute towards this area? How are we going to manage our land and businesses with this in mind? Who are the experts? There aren't many at the moment. And the final point I was going to make is in terms of practical production, and I can comment on my specific area, which is crop production. We've seen a huge number of crop protection products revoked over the last few years. That's not changing. The tools that we've got in that particular toolbox are diminishing all the time. What we are seeing is R&D companies moving from crop protection solutions to seed trait technology. There's a huge investment there. But how do we integrate these new technologies into our crop production strategies? We need experts. Another thing that is definitely changing is the move towards artificial intelligence, computer technology. For example, how can we use an algorithm to determine disease forecasting in a specific area on a specific crop? It's fantastic stuff, but we need a human to be able to sniff test that technology and implement changes to strategy. We need some experts in that area. The final point in this part of the sector, I think, is nutrition. When we think about nitrogen and the carbon implications of nitrogen production and application, we are going to have to produce less from more. Again, need the experts. So that's our challenge in my view, and what I am absolutely certain of is that this group contains those experts and future experts. Good job we're here, hey?
So my name's Debbie and I'm an agronomist by trade. So one of the challenges, the big challenges that I see in the next 10 years is the tool set that I was really used to using in terms of pesticides and fertilisers is changing very rapidly. And notably with pesticides, there are a number of key insecticides, for instance, that are not being re-registered for various reasons. So we're having to learn how to grow crops, grow good yields of high quality crops without some of the tools we've been used to, and having to use new tools like more IPM and biopesticides and things like that. All of which is really good stuff. It's just the sheer pace at which we're having to learn new techniques and embed them, and that against a landscape of having to feed more people, grow better quality crops, Be very mindful about the carbon footprint of those crops, which tends to mean using things like less diesel. And be very mindful about the efficiency of water use. And there are lots of challenges of changing ways of working, which is great. I still think it's an amazing industry to work in with lots of opportunities.
The biggest challenge facing agriculture in the next 10 years is the climate emergency, and its impact will be twofold. Firstly, the changes to our climate we are too late to prevent, leading to more extreme weather such as droughts and flooding and species loss. Second will be changes to the way we farm and consumer demand as we try to mitigate the damage. Farming will need to go from a net polluter to sequesterer of carbon, which supports biodiversity, requiring a major rethink of accepted farming norms. And as consumers become more eco-conscious, we will see more people questioning where their food comes from and a desire for local, sustainable food and less meat consumption. There will also be more opportunities for farming outside of food as we look for natural alternatives to petrochemicals in